I used to take the subway every day for work, mostly at night because my shifts ended late. I'd gotten used to the weird energy of empty cars and the occasional loud drunks, but nothing could have prepared me. For that night, I got on the last train heading downtown, the car almost empty except for a few scattered passengers. At first, everything seemed normal. The dull hum of the train, the occasional squeak of the brakes. But then I noticed him, a man sitting across from me, hunched over, wearing a long coat and a hat that shadowed his face. Something about him made me uneasy, though I couldn't say why he didn't move. He didn't read a phone or look at the windows. He just stared directly at me. I kept my eyes on him, trying to appear casual, but no matter where I shifted, his gaze followed. Minutes passed. The train slowed for the next stop. Doors opened. Passengers got on and off. But the man didn't move. Then I realized something that froze my blood. He wasn't reflected in the window at all. Normally, even shadows appear faintly in the dark glass, but his image was completely absent. I shook my head, telling myself I was imagining things I got off at the next station to switch cars, trying to keep my calm. But when I turned around, he was in the same position, same car, same spot I had left him in. How had he gotten there so fast? I didn't want to stay, so I ran to the next door, pressing my body against the emergency exit when the conductor walked past. Over the next few stops, I tried to avoid looking at him, but I could feel him. His presence was heavy, suffocating, like a cold shadow pressing through the seat toward me. Every time I glanced up, I'd catch a glimpse of a pale face under the hat, the eyes black and empty. The train lurched as we entered a tunnel, and the lights flickered. When they came back on, the man was gone. Just gone. No reflection, no shadow, no trace in the car. I didn't stop shaking until I reached my station, and even then, I kept looking over my shoulder. Weeks later, I started noticing the same pattern. Late-night subway rides, quiet cars, and fleeting glimpses of a man in a long coat who disappears the moment I try to confirm he's there. I've never dared ride the subway alone at night again. It was around 1 a.m. when I got on the subway after a late shift. The train was nearly empty, the usual hum of the tracks blending with distant announcements. I found a seat near the middle, my backpack at my feet, and put in my headphones. Everything felt normal until the train slowed, stopping between two stations. The lights flickered, and the usual automated voice didn't announce a delay. Instead, I heard a low, distorted whisper, almost like it was coming from the walls themselves. "Don't leave." My first thought was that it was someone playing a prank, but when I looked around, the car was empty. No one. I checked the map. We weren't moving, but the doors refused to open. I pressed the emergency button, but no response came. A cold sweat broke across my back as I realized the temperature had dropped. My headphones crackled with static, then faint whispers. My name over and over, though I didn't recognize the voice. The air seemed to thicken, and I could feel a presence sliding along the benches behind me, invisible, but tangible. I tried to stand, and that's when I noticed the windows. They no longer showed the tunnels I knew. Instead, I saw endless darkness, punctuated by fleeting shadows moving just outside. Panic set in. I yelled, but my voice echoed strangely, distorted, almost like someone else was speaking it. The lights flickered again, and when they stabilized, there were people in the car. Figures I had never seen, pale faces, hollow eyes, their mouths moving, but no sound coming out. They stared at me as the train lurched forward. I couldn't run. Every attempt to leave my seat felt like swimming through molasses. Eventually, the train jerked to a sudden stop, and the doors opened to a completely unfamiliar station. I bolted out without even thinking, not stopping until I was outside in the empty streets. Later, I tried to trace that ride. Schedules, cameras, anyone who could explain it. There was no record of the train I'd been on. No stops, no car, nothing. And now, months later, I refuse to take the subway past midnight. Sometimes I see the same pale figures in distant stations, standing silently, just watching, waiting. I got on the subway after a late dinner with friends, trying to relax and forget the stress of the day. The train was moderately crowded, and I found a spot near the back car. As the train pulled away, I noticed an older man sitting alone at the far end of the car. At first, I didn't think much of it, but something about the way he stared, empty eyes, unblinking, made my stomach twist. I tried to ignore him, but every time I looked up, he seemed closer, though the car hadn't stopped moving. I assumed it was my imagination. After a few minutes, a strange sound began. Scratching, faint at first, like nails on metal, coming from behind the seats. I turned my head slowly, and no one was there. The man's eyes were now locked on me, completely unblinking, and I realized his expression was not human. His lips stretched in a smile that shouldn't have been possible. I froze, unable to move, as the scratching grew louder, circling me, echoing in the car. The overhead lights flickered, and when they came back on, the man was only a few feet from me. Though I hadn't seen him move, I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't respond. The train screeched as if it had derailed, though the tracks felt normal. Shadows lengthened along the walls, moving in ways that defied physics, circling the man and reaching toward me. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing it all to stop. When I dared to open them, the man was gone, and the car was empty, except for a single folded note on the seat where he had been. It read in precise handwriting, "Next time, don't sleep." I didn't ride the subway for weeks after that, and when I finally did, I always avoid the last car. But sometimes on late-night rides, I swear, I see him in the distance, pale and silent, staring at me from the shadows, waiting for the moment I forget to look. And that's it. 3 terrifying subway encounters that remind us just how quickly the ordinary can turn into the unimaginable. Whether it's a shadow that moves when no one's looking, a train that seems to have a mind of its own, or a passenger who shouldn't exist, the subway proves that even in the busiest, most familiar places, you're never truly alone. If these stories left you looking over your shoulder or double-checking the empty seats around you, remember this. The next time you hear footsteps behind you or see a pale face staring silently from the darkness, trust your instincts. Because sometimes, fear isn't just in your imagination. And if you enjoyed these stories, there's plenty more where that came from. Just be careful which train you choose, which car you ride, and most of all, who you sit next to.